Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's always a pleasure to rise in this House to represent the wonderful people of Long Range Mountains. I've sat in this House, Mr. Speaker, and I've listened carefully to many of the debates on Bill C-5. And let me begin by stating clearly, of course Conservatives support natural resource development. We always have. For nearly a decade, Conservatives have been pressing this Liberal government to repeal the legislation that has been blocking responsible development in regions right across this country. We know that Canadians are living through deep economic uncertainty, and they are looking for a serious plan that gives that certainty. But they also want to create competitiveness to the private sector and have a plan that creates jobs, attracts investment, and delivers hope for the future. The Building Canada Act is the government's answer to this moment. And as Conservatives, we agree with building Canada and creating growth in our economy. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I campaigned on it. And after close to 50 years, a traditionally Liberal riding flipped. And this is because the people of Long Range Mountains recognized that we have a province rich in natural resources, but we also have some of the worst economic outcomes in the country. And they believed a Conservative government would unlock the opportunities in their communities. We're thankful that Liberals have finally recognized that this is extremely important to Canada and Canadians. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, this plan gives way too much power to politicians to pick and choose projects. Thankfully, our amendments have decreased some opportunity for Liberal corruption. But despite having the most resources per capita of any country, our economy has had the worst economic growth in the G7, and we have become more dependent on the United States because of Liberal laws that have blocked resource development. Canada's unemployment rate in May was at its highest level in over 8 years, excluding the pandemic. Youth unemployment has skyrocketed, and Canadians can't afford groceries. Quite simply, Mr. Speaker, we are not meeting our potential, and this legislation is supposed to be a part of charting a course for Canada's economy and our economic future. Unfortunately, this legislation does not give the confidence to workers, businesses, or investors that we need in this situation. But what's deeply concerning is the method by which the projects of natural interest get to be selected and can also thereafter get taken off the list. The legislation gives sweeping power to Cabinet to pick winners and losers behind closed doors. Once a project is declared a national interest project and added to Schedule 1, all required federal authorizations are automatically rubber stamped, but they can thereafter remove them from the list. This isn't reforming the current system, it's a power grab and it's political favoritism. In addition, the creation of this bill by Liberals is effectively admitting what Canadians already know, and that their own laws have paralyzed our ability to build and grow. And rather than fix the broken system and get rid of the laws that prevent us from developing our natural resources, like repealing Bill C-69, the energy cap, and the industrial carbon tax, they're creating an exclusive shortcut for a select few based on political convenience. This bill trades fairness and long-term certainty for more centralization and more Liberal control. Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve better. Conservatives want to protect Canadians from government corruption while also developing our natural resources and unlocking our immense potential. That means stopping Liberal ministers from circumventing conflict of interest laws, and thankfully, Conservatives have added amendments that will remove this ability. However, we should allow private sector to drive innovation and growth, and this Liberal government insists on picking winners and losers, and I just ask why. Instead, and once again, Mr. Speaker, simply repeal the bad policies that block projects. And what about all of the major resource and infrastructure projects that are already stuck in the federal system that may not be deemed national interest projects? All with growth of the Canadian economy, jobs, and investment on the line. Where's the fast track for them? In Newfoundland and Labrador, there are projects caught on the other side of federal red tape and regulatory paralysis. These projects will grow local economies and provide growth and financial prosperity for rural communities in my riding. Where's the fast track for them? The people of Newfoundland and Labrador have wanted to see our natural gas sector develop for years. Recently, the province released its assessments on natural gas resources, highlighting that it can drive economic growth. Yet we know the Liberals have driven away proponents looking to develop this resource, not because it wasn't viable, but because the federal process dragged on so long that they simply just walked away. On this point, Mr. Speaker, everyone will remember the Liberals' 2022 announcement with the German Chancellor when Canada was asked directly to help Europe reduce its reliance on Russian gas. The Chancellor actually visited my riding, and he made it clear Europe would really like Canada to export more LNG. Our allies were looking to us for reliable, democratic energy supply. Newfoundland and Labrador, Mr. Speaker, could have been a part of this opportunity. But instead of answering that call, the Liberals claimed there was no business case for Canadian LNG. Under the legislation as it stands right now, all of the same Liberal ministers will get to choose which projects get handpicked and fast-tracked. Furthermore, in that moment, with a great opportunity for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, the government pivoted to hydrogen. And now, several of these projects are trying to launch wind hydrogen operations in Newfoundland and Labrador. The Liberals picked projects with promises of wind-powered hydrogen exports, new infrastructure, and thousands of jobs. But like so many other Liberal announcements, what was promised with cameras rolling is now wrapped in all kinds of uncertainty. Recently, it was revealed that Newfoundland and Labrador is owed millions of dollars in unpaid fees from green energy companies, a development that raises serious questions about the financial viability of these projects and whether the multi-billion-dollar investments touted by the government will ever materialize. Some owe a collective of $13.7 million in fees due in 2024 for the use of Crown land. Mr. Speaker, politicians got carried away with announcements and hand-picked projects, but the real tragedy, Mr. Speaker, is that Newfoundland and Labrador missed out on an opportunity to provide Canadian LNG because someone in Ottawa thought that they knew best. This is a perfect example of why top-down decision-making doesn't work. It's not just about energy policy, it's about trust and credibility. There's lots of projects that this Liberal government has failed to get built. So when they say they're creating a new fast-track process under Bill C-5 for a select few national interest projects, why are the ones stuck in limbo across this country still there? Why do Liberal cabinet ministers get to decide what's on the list and what's not? Jobs are being lost to delays, while cabinet gives itself the power to pick favorites. Since the government has admitted that their own legislation has created this problem and is now trying to bypass it with shortcuts, doesn't it just make more sense to repeal the legislation? If this is truly a new government, as the Prime Minister and all his front bench have claimed, then prove it to Canadians by repealing Bill 69, remove the industrial carbon tax, scrap the emissions cap. These measures will restore certainty, ramp up our economy, including our rural communities, so we can become a self-reliant, sovereign, and independent country. In the meantime, as Conservatives, we intend to hold the government to account on this legislation to be sure Canadians are protected against Liberal corruption. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. Question et commentaire. The honourable member for Winnipeg North.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I can assure the member, you know, she makes reference to a new government, and it is, in fact, a new government. administration, a new Prime Minister, and there have been very much tangible actions that we have seen since April 28, just a number of weeks ago, where we have a Prime Minister working alongside the Liberal caucus, presenting legislative initiatives such as the one that we're debating today, which was on page 1 of the election platform, and we are checking it off. It will, in fact, pass. The Prime Minister has already met with the First Ministers. He's met with the G7 countries. We have a very proactive Prime Minister fixated on Canada's economy and making it the strongest in the G7. My question for her is, does she not believe in a Team Canada approach?
Member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very familiar with all the toutings of the Liberal government. I've been hearing them over and over, Liberal talking points for days and days and days. My point is, Mr. Speaker, that this top-down approach of cabinet ministers sitting in ivory towers in Ottawa has proven itself to not be effective to get our natural resources developed. And the people in Newfoundland and Labrador have suffered immensely as a result of this approach by government deciding that they know best. And so this is the problem, Mr. Speaker, the arrogance and this idea that they know best and they tout themselves. Meanwhile, people are out of work, they're out of money, they're out of time, and it's time to get to work.
The Honourable Member for Beauharnois, Salaberry, Soulange, Huntington. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I listened to my colleague with great interest. She was very critical of the Liberal government, as she often does. But what I don't understand is that she voted for time allocation to get this bill passed quickly with no debate, no time to hear from experts, no analysis. What the experts are saying is, well, not everyone is saying this, but at the end, this is a bill that gives power to the Liberals. They're giving themselves power on a silver platter. So why did she choose to get this bill passed with no debate?
Long Range Mountains.
I thank the colleague for her question. And Mr. Speaker, we, as Conservatives, we believe in moving the economy and natural resource development forward. We don't want to be seen as standing in the way. So some development is better than no development. But what we would rather see is the anti-development legislation repealed. So that's our suggestion to this government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments? I know he's been waiting patiently. The Honourable Member for Terranova, the Peninsulas.
Mr. Speaker, when I was knocking on doors in Newfoundland and Labrador, it was very common for Canadians to say, I'm not voting because all politicians are corrupt. And I'm just wondering, I heard my fellow colleague mention corruption. I'm just wondering how she may see this bill, C5, perhaps lead into more corruption.
The Honourable Member for Long Range Mountains.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague from Newfoundland and Labrador, and our ridings share a lot of commonalities, and we hear a lot of the same things at the doors. And it's absolutely true what he's saying, Mr. Speaker. People feel like Ottawa is so far away that politicians are completely out of touch, and they just don't trust them. So my concern is that we're continuing down this same vein, giving them way too much power to make decisions that aren't in the best interests of Canadians or in the best interests of the people from Newfoundland and Labrador. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
A very brief question, please. The Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. I'd like to thank my colleague for her speech. It's been less than 2 months since the elections. So I'd like to ask my honourable colleague, what is in this bill that will make her constituents happy that she met at the doors?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure if the honourable, if my colleague was listening throughout my speech, but several times I made a plea to the government to repeal the anti-development legislation. That's what would make the people of my riding happy. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Resuming debate.